I saw some of the crazy homework from the Lens Squared. Like my favorite is when it's completely different of what I did. Like you can see how they follow step by step the process, but the way they are designing is completely different, and that's what I love the most, and that's what I can't wait to see what people does. During this course, mainly because it's. I would say this is better. It's more open. This course, the other one was focused on vehicles. This one is environment, but you can do a little bit of everything.
A Learn Squared legend returns in this episode as we welcome our instructor, Pablo Dominguez, who is not only here to bless you with his wisdom and energy, but also to talk about his two brand new Learn Squared courses, Environment Concept Art and ZBrush Basics, and how they will revolutionize and empower the way you create modern concept art. You can sign up for both of these right away. Also in this wide-ranging episode, we get to hear on what to expect in the industry after the recent strikes and layoffs, how to cultivate your creative space, the sacrifices Pablo made to reach his current level, and why he truly loves his job. And also why concept artists are essentially lovable nerds. Plus much more. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Learn Squared podcast, and I'm delighted to welcome a very special and returning guest, the amazing Pablo Dominguez. Welcome back, Pablo.
Hello everyone. Nice to be here again. Just always good to have a good talk with Aaron.
Awesome, dude. I'm excited again. I don't think actually the last time we actually spoke and even met was on the last episode we did. So I'm sure returning viewers and listeners will be remembering that episode. If anyone's new to this, please check that episode out. It's on our feed. It's on the links below. Just check it out there. But before we get into any of the good stuff that you've got happening, which is, of course, a chance to get to chat with you again, also reveal some of the great things you've got happening with Learn Squared, and I'm sure other things that you've been doing since we last spoke.
Yes.
But before we get into all of that, if you wouldn't mind just giving all of the brand new listeners, all of the new students who are completely new to this space and new to yourself, a perfect intro as to who you are and what you do.
So I'm Pablo. I'm right now a senior a freelance senior concept artist for the industry. Yeah, I've been working already. I can say a good amount of years now, like almost 8 years around,
Wow.
which is a good number. Not hitting the 10, but I started quite early because I'm the kind of person who always wants to grow a lot, and I love what I do. So since the beginning, I was that kind of kid or that kind of a student, very pushing my limits and making so many hours into the craft just to get what I wanted. And luckily, me, I have to say, this kind of thing. Like every people thinks like sometimes it's just, you're lucky. No, it was just like, let's say it was like a 70% of hard work and then that's 30% of luck, which is actually something you need these days because we are every year we are many concept artists, and the other day I was actually talking with an 18-year-old concept artist who was working on the same project as I was working on. I cannot talk about it, but I can say like I saw his work and it was great work, and he was like, it's my first project, I'm 18. And I was like, Jesus. But I mean, I was lucky because with 18, I was in the university, but with 20 years old, I already hit one of my best goals, in some way, because I didn't never imagine I will be able to work on Game of Thrones, for example, and I did, and that was amazing, and just to get that chance very early is always very good. But even though I'm always that kind of guy who is pushing every limit I have, and even though I normally do in terms of work for the movies I work, it's just always the same type of work, like environment, prop, vehicle design, keyframe work. Normally, I don't do too much characters. Sometimes I do, and mainly for sometimes even for animation. But my main stuff is just environments, keyframe, and design in general. Design techniques. And since the last Lens Square last podcast we talked about, I actually changed my workflow completely. That's why we are releasing a new course, because the old workflow is okay, is good, but things change, and since I always try to be the best as I can, I had to improve and learn new techniques. It's completely fine if you always use, the same workflow for years and years, obviously. But in
Yeah,
my case, I get bored, so I always need something new for getting excited
interesting.
and keep myself busy.
Sick. So yeah, I mean, like, firstly, one thing I've always said to you is you're one of my favorite artists, especially when I
Thank
first
you.
discovered your work. And you've definitely unpacked a lot of the reasons why. And one of the biggest things I remember taking away from the last time we spoke on the podcast was, I guess, to simplify all the things you said, was the amount of hustle and drive you put into what you do. Like
Hmm.
working hard. Yes, you are a great example of someone who works hard and puts energy and time into their craft. Again, everybody check out that first episode just to see more of what your journey's like then, because that was like, I guess, at the halfway point in your 8-year career so far. I believe that was like, I think, nearly 4 years ago
Yeah.
when we did that episode. And it's interesting to see the word you mentioned there, like about growth and how things have changed. But again, I'm not surprised as to that and your hunt for, I guess, like different workflows and improving yourself, because that's, again, you could tell it was a part of your nature from
Hmm.
when we first spoke. I love how you mentioned there about boredom, about like just to kind of go into that a little bit. Is that
Yeah.
something that's like you have to battle with, or do you kind of embrace it because it's like just an excuse to figure something out?
I have to say it's just in between both, because even though I look like in the Instagram or Twitter, I look like I'm always doing stuff, and that's true because I can't stop doing that, because if I get bored, I hate to be bored. First of all, because when you're bored, the first thing you go is just go to the fridge and just get all the snacks, and it's not good. That's the first thing you do when you're bored. But in my case, I don't like to get bored, so that's why sometimes, even though as a freelance now, I had the opportunity sometimes just to take a double job, for example. normally
Mhm.
normally I only have one, because double jobs is always a crazy thing. But if I see one project is wrapping up and it's very chill, and I have the opportunity to do some keyframes in the evening, to avoid that evening boredness,
Mhm.
I normally do. And now you will be able to think like, hey, Pablo, but you have other things in life to do, not only work. And that's true. But in terms of life, my friends, they are working in the evenings. So even though I am normally free every day in the evening, I cannot be pushing my friends just to
Mhm.
go out every day. And so that's why I normally in the evenings I try to improve. I actually, since I'm getting older or something like that, I'm getting bored of the video games. For example, many people play video games. I normally just play, as I tell you, I mentioned you before. I just play Counter Strike because it's just dopamine for my body. It's just that
Yes.
adrenaline. But rarely I play long games, even though I really want to, because these days the games are beautiful and they are very inspiring, and the graphics and everything, they are just incredibly amazing. But the other day I was playing the last Avatar game, and it's an incredible game, beautiful. All the technical points is insane, but I saw all the little dots in the map, and I was like, I don't have time in my life to complete this game. Like,
I
it's
know that
impossible
feeling.
for me, because every second I'm playing, I'm like, I can be learning Unreal Engine 5,
Yes.
and that will optimize my workflow for the
Yeah.
future. But well, I'm playing this game, so I am in that balance of like, I don't like to
Mm.
be bored, never. And also another thing, when I'm bored, or when I'm free, I'm that kind of guy who does nothing. I'm just laid in my chair or in my sofa, and I just watch TikTok and Instagram all the time. And I think that's not good for my brain. So that's why I always try to keep myself busy with anything, because sometimes you've been scrolling for 3 hours, and you realize, like, I've just been looking at dumb videos for three
Yeah.
hours.
Wow.
How many you can see a Martin Scorsese movie in 3 hours is gonna
Yes.
be better
Yes.
for you, but now I'm looking at my phone, just looking at parrots talking. It's good for a bit, but these days it's very easy, because they are meant, all of these reels and everything. They are all these applications like
Yes.
Instagram, TikTok. Even though I don't have TikTok, but all these applications are made for you to
Mhm.
be on the phone for hours. So just to avoid that, I'm just always try to keep myself busy. If it's not working, if just doing personal work or learning
Mhm.
something, or even though I'm now, I bought the 3D printer, and now I'm on the 3D
Nice.
printing world. Miniatures, you can see a little bit of that
Yep.
right there. Um, because it's something artistic who is always something who I like, because people likes to buy a figure. I don't like to buy a figure. I
Understand?
don't
Yeah.
I don't have any interest in to buy $500 Darth Vader, very realistic. I don't see the point. But if I do it, I like the when I do it, I like the craft of it.
Mm,
So that's why I do, like you can see, I leave it in the background for the ones who are looking at the video. I like to do, and you can see now in my Instagram, it's more common to see even miniatures than concept
mm,
art. First, because I don't have too much concept art left to post till the IPs I'm working on their
hmm.
release. And since now I'm more in the video game side, IPs takes more than 2 years. The good thing about movies is normally, everything you're doing in 2 years, you're probably, if they allow you, obviously,
Hmm.
you're gonna be able to show. But video games, it's five, six
Yep.
years. So, and I started freelance on video games 2 years ago. So everybody needs to wait another 4 years to see what I've been doing now these days.
Cool.
But that's the way I
Yeah.
I just try always to avoid that, be bored, and
So you
uh,
mentioned there about like the avatar thing and the map and basically seeing like a million
yes,
things to complete.
yeah.
I get that experience, especially lately. You, I have the same experience. I love video games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love the time. No, I love that I can spend time on them, but I
Mm-hmm.
also know how destructive that is on what other things I need to do. But
Yeah.
it's like, oh no, why do I want to do this? Why should I do this? But then how come you don't feel that same way about making art and making things? Because it's a similar thing, right? Like when you look at things, all the things you need to learn and what you need to get good at, you could probably have a more of a stronger feeling in that sense, thinking, oh, I don't want to learn all these fundamentals and learn all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you get that with making art, or is that completely a different kind of emotion? Maybe does that something that excites you even more, perhaps?
Uh, it's similar feeling. Obviously, like I see all these dots, and then with art, you can see all people doing amazing things, and you are always just like, I really want to be like that. But in terms of art, I had to say, like, the only thing who I'm always, a little bit more lazy or more cut off, it's when I see, oil painters and just traditional art. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
is when I see, like, I have to practice this stuff,
Right,
because
right.
at some point it's not because I think I am the best or anything, but if it's digital and you have a tutorial, it's just put more hours on the craft. But I think these days, just to go to the craft of oil painting or
Mm-hmm.
acrylic painting or just regular figure drawing and all of that, I think it's more difficult to achieve good results because it takes longer. And
Yes.
again, we are living in this society of like the 15 seconds of attention or something like that.
Yes.
I don't know how is it, but it's like, if you don't get the attention of somebody these days in social media for
Yep.
more than 3 seconds, you're done.
Yes.
So, or is the time, like, the people are going to see your post, it's only 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So and I obviously am growing with that, and I'm living in this world. So the good thing about digital stuff like Unreal, it's very, I mean, I haven't used Unreal too, but I played a little bit with it, and very soon you can get a good lighting, a good thing. You just download a couple of assets from Quixel and you get a realistic environment in 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the result very quick. But to do a masterpiece in oil painting, you need maybe 2 months of doing it, and then maybe that 2 months later that looks like shit. So it's not that, the reward is not that quick, like a
Mm-hmm.
fast food. Like you go to you craft your own food. Obviously you're gonna take time just to make it, and maybe it's not gonna taste good, but a McDonald's is gonna feel good, yes or yes, even though it's not good for your body.
Yes. Yes.
It's not
Yes.
good, but the quick way they bring it to you, and the quick way, in a quick way, you just eat it, and you're happy for that 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I have that feeling with digital art in general, like the fact, like, it's easier to achieve the stuff if you just put a couple of hours
Mm-hmm.
and a good stuff. And mainly, again, maybe not the students, but if you're a little bit more professional, it's even easier because you have all the knowledge from the other stuff you already know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, switching from one software to another one is just find the buttons in the correct, the different buttons from one software to the other one, but the results are gonna be different. They are gonna be similar, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe quicker or maybe in another way. But that's my point. Like a
Mm-hmm.
traditional art is what I am like. I have to do it, but And actually, you need to clean the brushes and clean stuff. And digital, you don't have to clean anything. So,
That's true. That's so true.
and there's no smell in
Yeah.
the room and anything.
No,
And
no,
with
no.
traditional art, you have all these small things, which is like, I need to put myself on
Yeah.
it.
Now, traditional is like super duper humbling. No matter
Hmm.
like what, whether it's like you mentioned, even I guess it's kind of a fusion of both. The 3D printing you mentioned, just
Yes,
making things. It's like a good blend of practical and digital, and
yes,
in
absolutely.
obviously physical form, but also traditional. Like there is just something about a craft. Like I always liken it to like a martial art. Like
Hmm.
yes, you can measure yourself against others and show how powerful you are based on your level,
Yeah.
but there's always something else to achieve. There's always a
Hmm.
better technique you can perfect and all sorts. And I think that's quite like there's something humbling but also cool about it because at least in my opinion, you're never gonna reach 100% completion, but you
Yeah.
still try and push for that as well. Um, how often do you partake in like traditional stuff? Like, do you just do it when you feel like now is the time? Like it's always kind of there, like I want to complete that mission, or do you carve out time, pun intended, to make sure that you do it?
I think it's more on the second one. Mainly, it's just mindset. For example, right now, you just got me preparing a oil painting, just a big one, because I
Hmm.
have a in my house I have now the space to do oils again.
Nice.
So I was just preparing. I'm just obviously I'm preparing cheating. I'm just I just have a picture I like, and then I'm retouching that picture in Photoshop to adjust it and just to add some of the stuff I like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then I'm not gonna lie, I'm just gonna project it with a projector in the painting,
Right.
and I'm just
Right.
gonna draw it because I'm not gonna lose 30 hours of work, obviously, doing the copy from one
Yeah.
to the other one. You can be that cheating, yes it is, but again, I'm not gonna sell it. Nobody's gonna watch it probably. I mean, it's
Right.
gonna be
Right.
maybe a quick story on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm not even posting my that kind of paintings
Yeah.
on internet, but it's just something I do because I like the moment of doing it.
Mm.
Except cleaning, everything is good.
Mm.
And another thing I will say, good recommendation for everybody who wants to do anything traditional, and that comes for the miniatures and the 3D printer, for example, is if you're lucky to have a room to have it ready anytime, just you sit down, you just turn on the light, and then you just start painting. That
Yeah.
helps a lot because if it's that kind of thing, you need to prepare
Yes.
all the
Yes.
stuff like 30 minutes of preparation and just put in the canvas, put this, and this. It's always just like, no, I do tomorrow.
Yes.
But now I'm lucky to have that space. I have another room in my house just ready for all the smelly traditional stuff. So it's a good recommendation for everybody who wants to jump on more traditional stuff.
Hmm.
Apart from having a sketchbook here, apart from that, obviously, because many people already don't have a sketchbook; they have an iPad.
Hmm.
But I don't. I don't have an iPad, so I have an old one, and Procreate is not working very well
Oh
anymore in
no.
that one. So I just have my sketchbook these days. But the sketchbook is a sketchbook. It's not like I saw very often in conventions and anything. And it's nothing wrong with it. Just to be clear. But when I see people who draw very good, they bring his sketchbook, and that sketchbook is like every draw in that sketchbook is absolutely perfect. It's just a masterpiece done by a pen or watch. And no, it's my sketchbook. Is like, no, this is your portfolio, man. This is not a
Yeah.
sketchbook. A sketchbook. My sketchbook is full of shit. It's just like there's notes, there's um, quick thoughts, shitty
Yeah.
drawings.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something like, no, it's my sketchbook. It's just like, this is a portfolio, man.
Yeah.
This sketchbook have like more than 1,000 hours. Mine
That's
maybe
true.
have like 5 minutes every day, and I just fill 2 pages. So
Do you lean on your sketchbook a lot? Like, is it important for you to get sketches down? I guess it's like for idea generation or just thoughts, or is it almost therapeutic? Like, what's your relationship
uh,
with sketching and your sketchbook? Because I have a very similar feeling
mhm,
about sketching and sketchbooks in general. I've got a bunch, and yeah, they look like it should be
mhm.
full of shit book as opposed to a
Yeah.
sketchbook of mine as well. But I love sketchbooks and what it does and what it offers. But I'd love to know your relationship on why you still use a sketchbook and what is in those pages for you.
What I would say, it's just like I'm not that guy who sketch everything first in mainly in work in my job daily. I normally don't even do any sketchbook. It's just like the sketchbook is just rendering time, and then just draw dumb ideas or things for later, or maybe some quick inspiration. You're looking at a movie or you're something like that, and you see, oh, that idea is good, and then you just quickly draw it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
again, it's not like a fancy drawing. It's not like a fancy design.
Hmm.
Actually, the other day I posted on Instagram a character, and I did that kind of, I post the character, and then on the side I just post the quick thought at first, which is not
Mm.
the best character drawing you're gonna ever see in your life. Obviously not. It's just like just showing what was the idea. I just did it quickly, and then I just jump on Cibers and model it. But sometimes for really random quick thoughts, normally the sketchbook is what I use. But in terms of workflow or movie workflow for my everyday work, no, I don't. I just normally I have a very clear idea of what they want, because normally in the project, for example, I'm working on, I cannot say, but it's been 2 years working on this project, so I'm very, I kind of know what the client wants.
Mm.
So it's just like I just go straight to Blender or straight to Cibers
Mm.
and start working there. Maybe it's if it's something more delicate or more like a very abstract idea. Sometimes, yes, I just go to my sketchbook because I like to figure it out. Because it's quicker for me, even though it's quicker for me doing on the sketchbook rather than open Photoshop and do
Mm-hmm.
the drawing in
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop. I don't know. It's just like the
Mm.
the instinct thought, like because I've been drawing in my sketchbook or in my notebook since I was in high school. I was that
Mm.
kind of kid who never pays attention and draws
I was just
boobs and dicks in the books all the time. That was me. So I think that's natural instinct, just to go to the sketchbook and draw whatever is in my mind.
amazing. Out of curiosity, pen or pencil for sketchbook or whatever's on hand.
Pen, always pen. Actually, this one, the orange one is the one I like.
Ah, okay, cool. Is that the big ones?
Big ones,
Awesome. Yeah.
yes.
Hey, cool.
Actually, it's funny because when people come here to my little studio, um, they see like there's like a jar only with that, because I just bought once like 3 packages in Amazon. It's like, okay, I have now pens forever.
There you go. Nice and efficient. Are
Yes.
you big? Are you, just out of pens in general? Like, do you? I'm sure, like with all like, especially ones who sketch and who
Hmm.
have sketchbooks as well. We have like a bunch of, I guess, like a toolbox, art box full of pens and stuff. Do you?
Um,
Are you big on like different types of pens and different types of, like tools, or when it comes to sketching in general, like you just said, as long as I got enough of what I need, that's all I need.
I'm more than the second part. Like
Mm,
I'm not very specific, even though I mean, I will say like I like big, big. It's even it's done for not for drawing, actually, it's
yeah,
just for
yeah, yeah.
writing. But I like the way they feel. But because I have to say, like, pencil is okay, but normally if you don't put anything on the top, it gets dirty. And even though the sketchbook is not the cleanest thing, I hate to see a painting just getting dirty by the other
Yeah,
painting, because of the pencil. And I hate that feeling. And obviously, it's just like, okay, you can leave the page clean,
yeah,
and painting is not gonna be a conflict. But you're gonna have like a beautiful drawing on one side, and then in the other side you have like a stain
yeah.
of pencil,
Stay
and I hate to see that. I love everything clean in some
nice.
ways. So it's just more like a minor thing. Maybe it
Hmm.
sounds just very stupid, but it's a minor thing, like just to see dirty.
Yeah.
Even though my name is Dirty Sketch on Instagram, but the sketches, it's not the same dirty sketch that is a sketch dirty. it's,
Right.
it's
Got
two
it. Got it.
different things.
Yeah. You mentioned before about like having a place where you can paint. Um, how important is it for you to have a creative space? Do you spend a lot of time, or have you put a lot of like energy into making that space creative friendly, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say, like, apart from the room I'm right now, which is the room with all the miniatures and all of that, and I have here my computer.
Hmm.
But I mean, I had the you know luck to have this apartment I'm living in, and I have 3 rooms. So for me, it's very important. For me, I have one room for sleeping, one room for working, and then the other room is just for all the traditional art in some way, apart from being a guest room if somebody comes by. I always try to have like that space. But for example, when I record the previous Lens Square, I did it on London, and I was sharing the house with 4 more people,
Hmm.
one bathroom, and a small house in London. All the walls are curvy. You have stains everywhere. So But I always try to have it my art space is clean and nothing objective me. But
Mm.
again, it's just a matter of luck and hard work just to make that space work if you have the possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's people who maybe don't have the possibility to have that your own space for your computer and your bed and your house and everything. But there's other people who have the possibility and they are a mess. And I saw a couple of studios of people very very big in the industry or very very rich, and their studios are a disaster for me.
Yeah,
I mean, I
right.
will be like, I won't be able to work here. This is a
Interesting.
mess. But if they are happy with it, it's okay.
That's true. That's true. Like I guess if it works for you, then it works for you, and that's the beauty of
Exactly.
like making stuff. But I guess I think it's an important thing you mentioned there, especially people who I guess starting out or on their journey who think like I guess having their perfect space is like
Hmm.
even the career in general is like a dream. Like it's never going to
Yes.
happen, or it's a long way away there. But I think it's interesting you mentioned that. Like obviously you're 8 years into your career.
Hmm.
Um, I guess this setup that you have now, would you say it's your ideal setup, or is it a little bit more left to add?
I will say it's just a very, very ideal setup. I mean, I don't need anything else for me. I'm in some
Nice.
way, even though I fight for to have this and I work hard. I'm a simple man too. So
Yes,
as soon as
yes.
everything is clean and what I will say, just like for example, here my table where I have my Wacom is just it's like a kind of a big table, and there's only the screens, the Wacom, and the keyboard. There's nothing else.
Mm,
I don't have any figure or anything else. It's just like that. And actually I have the charger for the headphones is the only thing who is on the side, and I don't like to have it there, but I don't have any option.
right.
Because it's just like it's disrupting my clean
Mm.
table without nothing.
And just again, just like give people like context, how long did it take before you got to that stage in your career? I guess even probably from the beginning, because it's not something that just happened immediately, right?
No, 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 absolutely not. It was for me. Actually, there was a lot of things, obviously, and we got the pandemic and all of that in the middle, which actually was
Mm,
something who changed my career completely. I would say because I was not that kind of guy who was. I was a studio guy. I like it to go to the studio every day, just
mm,
take my coffee with the co-workers and then actually I would say just my life when I was at ILM, it was very cool. I mean, I really enjoyed that time and I miss it a lot. Like just go to the cafeteria, just take some coffee, and just start working on the desk of ILMs. And I was very lucky. Every studio I've been, it was a very nice studio actually.
mm-hmm.
Normally studios are very nice. They have good money. If it's a video game
Mm,
or movie studio, they are inside, they are nice because they have this culture of like the worker needs to feel happy, obviously not gonna be a rat hole. um and then I was going back to my house, which was actually a rat hole, uh but it's true, it was.
fair enough.
But this is what I can afford back in time.
Mm,
And then COVID happened and I moved back to Spain, and obviously the prices in Spain are more affordable for our type of salary, and I just be able to own this flat. I mean, I'm not renting, I'm the owner.
nice.
And it took not too long, because for many people it's going to be like, hey, that for me that was 20 years of my life. I would
Mm-hmm.
not be able to do that till I was 35 or 40, and i'm,
Mm,
I'm 28 and I have my own flat and all of that. But obviously I'm paying mortgage and stuff like that, obviously. But it's not something that happened from one day to another one. But being freelance was something to change my mind. And I
mm-hmm.
actually, in my house, I would say, my apartment, it's not very nerdy if you think so, because we are always concept artists. We are nerds, even though people who feel like a rock star, you are a nerd, you work for Marvel, Star Wars, you're a nerd. I'm sorry. Your work is a nerd. But many of them, and I respect them, they have all these miniatures, toys, and
Right.
everything around the house. And people think like, oh, because I upload all of this stuff on Instagram, my house is gonna be full of that. And that's actually not my living room. I have a couple of miniatures because they are beautiful ones, and I got them
Mm-hmm.
like proud. but the rest
Mm.
is in this room, which actually this room is the nerdy room, you know,
Right.
my
Right.
studio.
Right.
I just want to feel like when I was at ILM with all the little figures and all of that as an inspiration. And actually, you know, you can see around I have like all of that kind of stuff is gifts from companies or from conventions I've been and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So here I have like all my work life. It's around these shelves and all of that
Mm.
mainly because again, all of this stuff is just gifts uh, from studios or from clients or conventions or anything. Um, and that's why I just created. But again, if you're listening to this, I mean, I was lucky to get that in 8 years. Let's say if you get it in 10, it's completely fine. If you get it
Mm-hmm.
on 15, it's
Mm.
completely fine. Also depends in where you live. You know, like Spain is. It's a good country for houses. If you are not, I'm not in a big city actually. I'm just in the outside of the city, very very outside, like 50 minutes
Mm-hmm.
from Madrid.
Right.
So I'm like the same apartment in Madrid will cost 10 times more.
Wow.
So I will not be able to afford it, obviously. But just if you go a little bit far away from the main cities and you're working from home, it's not that it's not a big problem just to live a
Mm.
little bit far away. Depends on your necessities, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it was something who changed it completely. Like I was thinking,
Mm.
just I was gonna be an island forever, living in a
Right.
rat hole in the middle of London,
Yeah.
and doing all the commuting every morning,
Oh
which actually
goodness.
is the only thing I don't miss.
I don't know anyone who enjoys commuting, even if you
Oh
think it's cool. I'm sure like getting to where you got to get to is
no,
probably the enjoyment part, but commuting
no,
is probably one of the universal things that everybody hates.
no,
I'm
no.
pretty
It's
sure.
I would say when I was working on El Ranchito for Game of Thrones, I had to do commuting too from when I was living to Madrid, and it was
Mm.
just like an hour and a half every day, or go and then come back, which can be it's not too long, but it was nice because it was like a very nice bus, and for me commuting was just napping. I would just go
Okay.
into the bus and just die in there, and then I arrive. But London, you cannot do anything like that because the tube in peak hour it's insane, like
It's
insane.
literally a tube where everything's stuffed into the tube
Yes,
and you get squeezed out. You
it's
don't get to walk
horrible.
out. Yeah.
It's but London peak hour is famous for something, it's like when you see it on James Bond movies, it's like welcome to the London peak hour, and
Yeah.
he cannot go in I don't in what's the movie James Bond going on the tube. um
Good question.
yeah,
It's one of them. One
Skyfall,
of the
the
sequels. There
Skyfall,
you go.
the
Yeah.
best one. I mean, the
Yeah.
more in that one. So that scene of the peak hour, it's literally a reality, and the fact that you have to wait for another train and then another train, and just waiting on the station for three trains to just to
Hmm.
get to the city. It's the only thing I don't miss from London in my experience, but I miss the office and I miss the my
Mm.
coworkers there and that life. But the pandemic happened, and I got used to work at home, and I was like, maybe I can just stay in my house and not coming back ever.
Is that how you
And
feel now? Like, do you feel like being working remotely is the way for you now?
for me, it's the way, absolutely. Except, and this is if any client is listening for the future, when I finish my actual projects, if you have like a cool project, I will be able to go for a couple of months, 6 months, a year, not more.
Okay.
But as a year experience, I will definitely go. For example,
Mm.
I'm not gonna say the projects, but I have an offer to go Pinewood last year. Pinewood is just like the Hollywood in London for the people
Yep.
who
Yep.
doesn't know. And I never work on set. Actually, I work on a studio, but never on set.
Mm.
And I had an offer to move on set for a couple of months or something like that. It was just like a talk. I mean, because the project obviously with the strike didn't happen at the end. It got completely canceled or paused, or I don't know. They just told me like, Paulo, we are not gonna continue with anybody. Everybody stop it. So I was willing to go a couple of months to Pinewood, a couple or 6 months or 7 months or whatever production needs. Normally, concept art is around 9 7 months for a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on the movie, but normally it's just like not. I don't think pre-production goes to a year if it's not like a long project.
Mm.
If it's a quick Marvel movie or anything like that, normally it's just like 9 months, 7 months. So around that, I think, and I will not mind to go as an experience. Again, I'm still young and full of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Someday if I have kids, wife, or everything, obviously change the mindset. But right now, I'm happy being here. But if somebody offers me something cool for a little bit, I'm willing to go.
Mm.
Um, if it's not too far, obviously. If it's in Australia, I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. Um, Obviously, like I think when we did your first episode together,
Yeah,
were you still at ILM or you just left? I think you're just going into freelance then,
I think I
right?
was just left leaving ILM, or I was about to leave because I
Mm,
remember when I released the course. When the course was released, I already finished
got it.
in the company when the course was released. But
Mm,
when I was making it, I was working in the morning at
mhm.
ILM and then just doing the course at home every day. But I believe I was not there anymore. But we
Mm.
were all in the pandemic, I think. So
What
like
and
lockdown and
how is freelance been? I know you kind of mentioned a lot of it just
hmm
then. Like you can tell, like it's been a positive influence on you, at least in
yes.
terms of how you view your career and what you like to do, and you clearly know, like I guess, what you want
hmm
as an artist and what kind of work you want to do. And I think it's powerful when you know what you want to say no to.
hmm
Were you ever that kind of artist at the beginning? Like, did you ever say
hmm
no back then, or were you like yes to everything?
And I mean, I had to say no, obviously, to stuff. As soon as you're growing and learning in the industry, you know when to say no, when to say yes.
Mm,
It's something it's just experience. It's something like I will say, like I would love to talk with the Paulo 5 years ago and tell him like,
mm-hmm.
don't do that. Obviously, we always like to please our clients and just do the best we can,
Yeah,
but sometimes you have to say no to other projects or to say no to some request because you have to keep your mind, you know you have a life, even though, because the good thing about the studio, you enter at 9, you leave at 5 normally. People will say like, oh, but in the studios there's a lot of crunch hours and all of that. In my career, I never ever do any crunch. I think
interesting.
like, let's say 3 days in total in 8 years. So that's not crunch.
Mm,
It was just like something needed, and it mainly was like only like 2 more hours a day.
got
Not
it.
like people who say like, people crunch for 5 hours
Yeah.
extra every day. I didn't have that experience, so I'm lucky in that occasion. Like I never crunch hard more than 1 hour or two
Mm.
hours. So
Was
when you're
that, sorry
free,
to interrupt? Was that crunch because of from yourself, or was that crunch more from external
normally
reasons?
every crunch normally is for external normally, because you have some days to do the task, and
Mm,
if you're a professional you kind of know when you're gonna finish it,
mm,
or you're gonna do it. Mainly in concept art, I cannot talk about other fields like compositing,
sure.
which is normally the ones who crunch a lot, compo.
Yeah.
But when I have to crunch, normally just because there's like a last minute note from the client, or from the studio, or the supervisor or the director, and they are like, they need it for tomorrow, yes or yes.
Mm,
And you're like, oh, just, okay, I do it because it's not gonna take me too long. Or
yeah.
if it's gonna take you too long, normally I say it like, you're not gonna have that tomorrow.
Mm,
Like, I'm finishing now. There's no time to do that because
yes.
we have a saying in Spain. Sometimes, I don't know if you have it in England or in your country. Like, when you can give them the hand, but they can take you the arm.
Right. Right.
So yes, you can give them the hand, but just make sure they don't cut your
Yeah.
arm. So that's the thing. And now, as a freelance, normally what I have to do is just, again, thanks to the lockdown, in some way, I got the habit of just wake up early, just do your work, go to the
Mm,
gym, food, then back to work, finish the work, and as soon as I finish the work, don't touch anything else from work, or
mm,
don't do anything. I mean, you can do miniatures, you can do play video games, you can go walk your dog, whatever, but don't, I don't, if you can, don't even reply the emails, like, it's not
mm,
your time zone. Obviously, there's not a problem replying an email. Normally it's 5 minutes or 3 minutes of your life. But I always try to just disconnect, and same when I'm in holidays, because when you're in a studio, again, 5 to 9 to 5, you just leave, or 9 to 6, you go, and as soon as you're out. When you're freelance,
yeah.
you're always on attention, because it's everything is on you normally, right?
Mm,
Because in the studio, if there's anything wrong or any feedback, first is going to be with your supervisor or your art director, and then it's going to be with you. And normally you are already out of the office, so they're going to wait for you tomorrow. if you're freelance, you have that FOMO of like, might need to reply because he's not gonna be happy. But normally, I clients always wants to work with me and repeat with me, which I'm really lucky to have that. That
Mm.
means in some way I did a good job. Um, because if they call you back again for another project, that means you're doing a good job with
Mm-hmm.
them. And if there's anything, as I always say, like I mentioned in my course, I mentioned when people it's just like, if you have any problem or you have any doubt, just ask the client.
Yeah.
Is the guy who's gonna reply you. Don't ask anybody else.
Yeah.
Because at the end, is the one who's gonna help you to help you, and actually he's the one who knows what he wants, or he kind of knows what he wants. So just good communication is very important. And if you have to crunch, just tell him, or just tell him like, hey, this is gonna cost you money. And
Mm.
maybe they stop, because they normally they respect, in my experience, mainly movies, if you are working on pre-production, they respect a lot the artist, I will say. I don't have, in my experience, maybe I'm the lucky guy, I'm people is suffering in pain, uh, and Pablo, I never have that, I always suffer, I'm
Yeah.
crying every day. It's just like, oh, maybe I was just like, but that's my answer.
I
Uh,
think it's something you mentioned there, which is quite important about just stating and just asking and saying.
yes.
And I know after speaking to a lot of people, and I guess when I was much younger, just in life in general, being very like timid and apprehensive about even burdening somebody. So I'll just kind of get on with it, kind of thing. But obviously, there's a power, not like in
Mhm.
a superpower kind of way, but it's powerful just to even ask, and it
Yeah.
it solves a lot of problems. So for those, just for, in your words in particular, from your perspective, just for those people who are listening who are probably at the beginning or just going through that, where they feel like I can't do that, or they feel like it's like if I do that, it's just career suicide, so to
Hmm.
speak. Have you ever had an experience when you've stated that this isn't going to work for me, or whatever the situation might be, where basically you've said no to what's been asked of you? Has it ever backfired?
Um. Obviously, I never had the experience like of something like, I would say like, I don't know, I can't do that. Like, it's impossible to me to do that. So I'm good in that way. But I had experience of like something like the client is requesting something, and you're not hitting the point, you're not hitting the point, you're not hitting the point, and
Mm-hmm.
you can see the client is hitting up and he's not liking, I always like to please them,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And when they are already, replying bad, I only had, I think, once. And actually it's because it was, on the time of the NFT craziness with all the metaverse projects, which to be honest, I didn't believe too much on them. I bet they had a good payment. So, because normally they were telling you like, I'm gonna pay you double your rate if you work for me, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's all right. But you can feel how they are just rich crypto bros, and they don't have any idea. Some of them, I mean, maybe some of them have in terms of financial stuff, but artistic or video game ways, it's just like you were talking with like a rich kid with money,
Right.
and it was just
Right.
like frustrating. And sometimes I actually left. I was just leaving the project because not in a bad way, but I was just like, I think I don't fit here. I'm not sure if I can hit your points
Mm-hmm.
on this and that. But that was the only occasion. It was with random. I don't know. I don't even remember the project. The name of the project. It was just frustrating the way they treated me, because the way they were talking is just like if I was a piece of shit. And I
Right.
was like, hey, I just maybe I'm selfish, but I have love for myself, and you cannot treat me like that.
Mm.
So I'm gonna gently quit this project.
Got
Even
it.
though the
Got it.
payment was good, but I
Not
was
worth it for
looking
that,
for
right?
me. Yes, it was just not
Yeah.
worth it. I just prefer to be 1 week without any work, just focus, work on my portfolio, or just talk with some other
Yeah.
clients, or just wait for another job offer, and that's it. Which
Mm.
actually, back in the days when I started freelance, the good thing is just like there was a lot of offers, which is good. Now, since the strike and everything happened, the work is just a little bit, and all the layoffs recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more. I mean, it's the first time, actually. This year is the only first time. Now I'm in a project, but I don't have anything else later. So it's the first time in years I don't have nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you always have that little thing right there in the corner. and it's like, okay, if this falls or if this
Yes.
stops, I will just immediately go to that one. And now I'm in that point, like I don't have anything, but obviously, I mean, I'm not sad in some way, or like,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't have any anxiety because I know something will come up, and if I have to stop for a month, it's okay. It's not a problem,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky to have savings, so in that way, it's okay. But I'm betting it's not gonna happen anyway.
How did you find the strikes? Majority, like you mentioned, most of your career has mainly been on shows, on films, on
Hmm.
movies, which I believe that's the industry that affected. But the strike was basically for that industry, right? Like
Yeah.
all those productions stopped. Um, what was that experience like? Like, how long did you not have work for? Like, were they slowly
Mhm.
stopping when the strikes were kind of in full swing? And yeah, like, what was it like?
I mean, for me, I was lucky to. I was already in a project. The only thing is, like, I was dealing another thing that maybe will happen. Maybe yes, maybe not. I didn't know.
Hmm.
And I was excited about it. Actually, I was just to think because I've been in a project for 2 years and a half, and I was thinking just to take a little break from that project and then go back because probably the client will be able to do that. They will allow me to do that
Got it.
because I have a very good relationship with them and they are very cool. Actually, I mean, in some way, I want that project to never end, you know, because it's very
Nice.
they are very nice and they're treating
Yes.
me very cool. So I'm really happy with it. But it was just a last short term sort of experience, and I think they will be happy if I offer that. But yeah, the strike was mainly for what I was talking with people, and people didn't have a job for months and months. I was lucky to be on video games at that time, so video games didn't get too much affected
Hmm.
by the strike. It got affected by the strike later, but not because there was not enough video game work. It's just because all the film work was going just straight to the video games. All the film
Right.
concept artists, they was just moving to video games just in case. But yeah, it affected me in that project, and another one for I was just gonna do a little bit of part time on that one. But it was just mostly projects I selfish wanted to go do. Like
Hmm.
I'm just gonna put more hours on my day just to do that because I really want that credit, or I really just to participate in that IP on that project. But in general, for me, I was lucky I didn't have too many problems. But I hear big names, big names of much better concept artists than me. They were asking me, "Hey, do you have anything else I can work?" And I
Right.
was just
Right.
like, "Why are you asking me? I normally have to ask you, you know."
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
was lucky to be on a game, so I
Hmm.
didn't got too much affected. But I saw many. Obviously, it was a tough year last year
Yes.
for the concept and design world, and it's gonna be still a little bit. I mean, people think like, okay, the strike stop, everything goes back work. No, it's gonna be a little bit slower because
Mm.
obviously I don't want to get people depressed or sad, but you know they have to do the scripts, and the scripts it's a couple of months, so and they have to rethink if they are gonna do the movie or not, because that
Yes.
happens a lot. It's just like, hey, we are not having too many loss, so why we should do this movie, which we can save this money and just do another thing, whatever. So I think it's gonna take a little bit more. Like let's say, I will say by summer, it's gonna be everything more correct. But right now, it's still a little bit. Everything is still a bit affected because the
Mm.
strike ended up in early December, final November, early
Yes.
December.
Yes.
So till May or till June, I doubt there's gonna be many projects as before, because they need
Yeah.
to do the scripts and they need to hire the production designers and just all the part that comes before concept art. They need to be done. So
For
I
sure.
think
It's like, I guess, a big machine. Like it can
yeah,
stop, but then it takes a while to get it started back up and
exactly.
then we get moving again.
Precisely.
Um.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, one thing that's cool, aside from your awesome work and your awesome talents, is the things that you've worked on, the things that you've contributed to. I remember when we did that first episode, there's some projects you couldn't reveal at the time, and they're very, very cool.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like you've got a very, very nice, envious IMDb of all the things that you've
Well,
done.
thank you.
Um, let us know, since I guess we last spoke, and I guess just for people who are completely new, like the kind of things that you've worked on, especially since you've gone freelance as well.
Yeah. So some of these projects I'm gonna mention, I was doing them still at ILM actually. because actually because of the pandemic and all of that, everything got delayed. So all the projects that's been released in these years, many of them are projects I've been working at ILM. I was working at ILM back in time, but I would say, like, for example, I was working on Lord of the Rings when I was on the Lord of the Rings of Power,
Hmm.
Jurassic World 3, and projects like that. I was still at ILM, but they got released last year, actually 2022, which
Hmm.
was, I would say, like, 2022 was the best year for my shows, or 2022-21, let's say,
Mm.
that 2 years, because everything big, I would say, like everything, or some of the works I was very proud, um they got released, and because I did a really cool job there, and I was really happy with the images I produced and the designs. And sadly, everybody flagged them out later because apparently they are not that good. But that's not my problem. I mean, the visuals of all of them are beautiful. Like,
Mm.
you can like Lord of the Rings or Rings of Power. You cannot like it. I'm not gonna say my opinion just in case. But I think visually they're beautiful. Same as Jurassic, and even actually, that now is like the top one movie in Netflix, more views. But when it was on the cinema, it was just like a big flop, and
Yeah.
everybody was hating more views. And I did some work on that movie too, so I was like, I just work on what people hate. Why? But I will say, if any client is listening this, I really love to work on that thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, I just work on Transformers too, and Transformers is this cliche of, like, oh, they are really bad movies just made for to do more money and just sell toys. It's just like, hey, but I had tons of fun working on
Mm.
Transformers, to be honest. Like, really tons of fun. If they are making a new one and they need help, I'm happy to help.
Yes.
My experience with a movie like Transformers was incredible. Obviously, such a fan of Star Wars. So for me, working on Obi-Wan Kenobi and Episode 9 and other Star Wars stuff is not going to happen anymore. It was really good to work on that, and obviously I love it, and I'm always with my arms open to participate in any of that kind of IP. And and but like people compares like Kenobi with Mandalorian, and obviously Kenobi was slightly more different, and
Yeah.
in some way I would say, for me, it was a little bit boring.
Yes.
But the visuals, they were great, at the end, which is what concern. It's my part on that is just visuals. I
Mm.
mean, if the story is not good, that's not my problem.
Mm.
But yeah, some of these projects like Transformers, again, Transformers, for me, I was not a fan of Transformers. I never
Right.
have a Transformers when I was a kid. I
Right.
was not that kind of kid. I just had Star Wars.
Yes.
Nothing. I mean, I didn't know even the names of the robots.
Okay.
I actually was watching the movies just before to work on the movie, and I felt asleep in many of them. I mean, I saw the first one when it came back, the Megan Fox one,
Yeah.
back in the days, because the VFX, they were remarkable back in
Yes.
the
Yes.
days, even though it's too noisy and all of that. But my experience working on the movie was incredible. Like, the
Mm.
production designer was very gentle, very nice, such a nice guy. And seeing, just thank you for hiring me for that movie. And I don't know. It was just so much fun to work on it. It was just, like, almost do personal work every day, but you
Yeah.
had to put Optimus Prime there. So,
I
so
think that's really cool and encouraging to hear, because you can clearly tell that you enjoy your job, you enjoy your
mhm.
career, you enjoy the things you do, and is getting asked to whatever the tasks you are to be creative is
Yeah,
basically like that's it. That's all you want to hear, right?
exactly.
Um, and I like how whether it's something that's part of your nature or you do it, I guess like I don't know, I guess subconsciously or deliberately, but you can compartmentalize the career version or the
hmm
career aspect versus the consumer aspect.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you is there ever a situation where like if the result isn't received
hmm
well, does that affect you in any way in terms of like, oh, that's ruined the whole thing for me, or is it simply that's just a separate thing versus the
I
work?
I would say it's a separate thing. For example, if I can feel, or I don't, I like, for example, I normally, if I work in a movie, I try to go to to the cinema. For example, this is gonna sound very crazy, but I take my grandma to see Transformers with me. I didn't have anybody to see Transformers, and I was like, "Hey, grandma,
Nice.
you're bored. You want to see a movie I work on?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, it's a grandma. Obviously, I love her,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
she's like very young mindset. She had a
Got it.
phone,
Got
she
it.
had Instagram, and all of that.
Nice.
Only just to check me and my cousins, obviously,
Oh, cool.
and my sister. But she's a cool grandma,
Mm.
and I just took her, and she was like, "Pablo, everything you did is amazing, and it's the best thing I've ever seen in my life."
Oh.
But the movie was so boring.
That honesty is awesome, man.
Yeah, the honesty, it
Yeah.
was just like the
Yeah.
movie was shit. I mean, and I was like, I like the movie, but grandma is just like, you like shit.
Do you know
um,
of people like, I guess I'm sure you have like conversations with colleagues and friends who may be on the other side who are just like maybe have a different opinion to yourself, or do you
mhm.
find that generally people in the industry, work is work and the product is the product?
What I would, yeah, mainly it's just work is work, product is product. And what I always say, and this is something I recommend because I saw many people doing that, and that's why I'm doing this talk like here, like, hey, you might not like the movie, but you don't need to go to the internet and okay, you're free to do whatever you want, obviously. But if you're working on the industry, it's better if you just be quiet, don't show your hate, just be quiet, just drown your hate all for you, and don't post anything. Because sometimes, like, there was one day, I'm not gonna say names, but of the director, but I mentioned a director on in my Instagram because I like his movie. It's a
Mm-hmm.
Spanish director, and I really like him. And I had many messages from people saying like, I thought it was so boring, I thought it was shit, I thought it was so pretentious, and whatever. I was just like, why I have to know you don't like the movie? I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm just posting that because I'm happy in my country. Independent director was able to do this movie. Like yeah, the movie is just this and this. It's a copy of this and with this culture. Okay, just I don't care. And imagine if I'm a friend of the director or whatever, your name is gonna be in my brain. And if somebody actually, again, this is a I never do that, obviously, because I always see the work. But there's people in this world who are a little bit more angry or can get pissed with you, and
Mm.
they can be a friend of somebody, and maybe you have an opportunity to get a job. But since you're saying that kind of things on the internet, maybe you cannot get that job later because some of this group is gonna be like, "Ah, no, I don't like that guy."
Mm-hmm.
So I will say, like, if you don't like something, just don't say it.
Mm.
Like because there's people who spend hours and hours and hours doing what you're calling shit, because sometimes they are a little bit like that, it's true. But just respect the work of everybody. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, for me again, like, people didn't like Obi-Wan Kenobi and they were texting me they didn't like it, and I was like, hey, if there's a second season, I'm here to work in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
like, please call me.
Yes.
It, I don't. I mean, for me, the product is a thing, and that's maybe it's because I've been working already for a couple of years, and I see the movies with two points of view. One of like the entertainment, and then the other point is just like, let's see what
Mm-hmm.
people can do. Like maybe it's a very heavy VFX movie, and people now these days is just like, hey, if everything have CGI, shit,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
When I see that, normally it's just like, if it's good CGI, I'm normally amazed by like or how they made it, because I like to see behind the scenes. I've still seen like how ILM or NPC or Bravestore they do the VFX of the movies. I like that part, but that's because of me. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
nerd of that part, so I just got to see that movie in the cinema to see that, obviously. But what I would recommend is just like, if you have an idea or opinion, just don't say it out loud if it's not good, or I don't know. I mean, you obviously you can do whatever you want, but it's not
Sure.
gonna
Yeah.
give you anything just to
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know release your hate to the public.
Yeah.
It's it normally is gonna be negative for you.
Yeah.
Like just
Yeah.
just
I've realized that there's some people who just like do it for whatever reason. They feel like they have to, which is
yes,
like, okay, it's up to you. Again, like you said, anyone can do what they want, but equally, people don't have to hear it too. But I think some people, they just can't help it. Like
yeah,
it's just like automatic reaction, and then pick up the pieces afterwards.
yes,
Um, But yeah, now I guess like it is one of those industries games as well where yes, there's opinions, but for some reason those opinions. Well, I don't know. Like I watch a lot of like football, soccer, and those
Yeah.
opinions like pale in comparison. Sorry, the other way around. Like, movie opinions pale in comparison to the level of hate on like soccer and stuff. Just like when
hmm
someone makes a wrong pass or whatever, it gets very very dark sometimes.
Oh
So
yeah.
like
Oh, football.
yeah,
It's
yeah, there you
soccer.
go.
It's
So
oof.
energy is like even sometimes I get involved. And it's like it normalizes the
hmm
kind of like behavior of like just spewing out negativity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I said, like there's something alluded to what you mentioned a lot earlier in the podcast as well. Like there's, I guess, especially when you're on this side where it's like the craft side, like behind the scenes,
hmm
there's a joy to
Yeah.
making things, and if there's an opportunity to make things,
Yeah.
why hate on that is my opinion, and I believe that's the same as yours as well. Like you mentioned, Lord of the Rings. I love that movie. I love that franchise, but the making of is way more
hmm
magical
Oh,
than
it
the
is
movie,
incredible. Yeah.
especially as an artist, because you just see literal magic happen and how it can be
Yeah.
made as well.
And actually, a recommendation is just the making of Lord of the Rings is amazing, but the making of some of the Hobbit series, maybe you don't
Oh
like the
yes,
movies, okay?
yes.
Everybody can agree with the movies. I'm not. Again, I will be one of the guys who just like I see the behind the scenes, I see the making of the movie, and I was just like, I would love to participate on that,
Yeah, same,
on
same.
that movie, even though people didn't like them at the end, but it's just like when you see the behind the scenes, it's so amazing, and sometimes that's why I like channels like Corridor Crew, which they on
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, so they just take a lot of information and then you
Mm-hmm.
show it to you how the movies are made or how they've been made back in the day. So yeah, just I just enjoy so much the process of
Mm-hmm.
filmmaking, or how they just do that kind of filmmaking, and I really enjoy it. And so that's why sometimes I can see not the best movie in the world, but I can enjoy it just because of that.
And speaking of process, you definitely spent a lot of time in sharing your process. You
Yeah.
did it with your first Lens Squared course, vehicle concept art, which all you have to do is just look at the Homework gallery to
hmm
still see 4 years on how many people still
Yeah, I'm still
come
doing it.
up with, they adopt your workflow, come
hmm
up with amazing vehicles. My main specialty is vehicles, and I always enjoy watching people's interpretations.
Yeah.
So that's always beautiful to see. But before we get into the course, one final question back on like I guess love and hate of working on things. Have you been in the opposite situation where you've, let's say, had a negative experience working on the movie, didn't enjoy it, but you liked the final product?
I never have that experience, but I have the experience like I had the opportunity to work on a movie and I couldn't do it. And then you see the movie and you're like, God damn it, I really like it. Why I didn't
Oh
participate in this
man.
movie?
Now, I guess your workflow that you teach. So at this moment in time,
Yeah.
I believe when this podcast comes out, the course should be available.
Okay.
And you've got two courses out: environment concept
Yeah.
art
And Zebra
and
Spaces.
ZBrush basics. Um, Now your workflow is very, from my perspective, very thorough. You did it in the vehicle concept art. You could tell with the way you do your work, like you got this beautiful blend of being able to simplify complexity, but
Mm-hmm.
not for complexity's sake. That makes sense. Like it's not just like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, look at this beautiful sprawling scene, which is based on like if you look at a real city,
Yeah.
especially in like themes and stuff. There's always a lot of detail in cities, a lot of detail in environments. It's very rarely, even like say a salt flat, which has nothing. There's a lot of detail even in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have a great way to show that, but not overwhelm the viewer.
Thank you.
But that's obviously down to your workflow and everything else as well. Now, is just to clarify, is the workflow that you teach in general and just what you've used on your projects, is that the same? Or is it a little bit different to what you work on when
No,
you're
it's
doing on
it's
films and games?
precisely the same normally. Depends also client work. And in terms of personal work, it's exactly that thing. I just do that.
Mm-hmm.
What you can see in the course. Maybe the course I go a little bit further, just creating more assets and creating
Yes.
more stuff, just because I want the student to learn. Normally, when I do personal work, I have the images locked in my mind, and I just need this stuff, and then that's what I build, and then I just go to Blender and everything. But the process is exactly the same. I just in the course I go a little bit further. just to show every
Mm.
student how it works. But in terms of client work, normally it's the same one if they give me creativity, or freedom to work. For
Mm.
example, on this course, what we do first on Cypress, apart from learn how the software works, is we create like a kit, design it all by our own, and then we do a scene on Blender. So that kit, normally, if the client gives me time, I do it. But sometimes the
Mm.
client is giving you all the assets and all of that. So maybe I don't even open Cypress. That depends on the project you're working on. But if they give me creative freedom, like in the project I'm on, which I am actually, my position is art director, on the outsourcing part, or outsource, or because it's not completely outsourcing, because outsourcing is another thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of like on our side, I'm the art director, and then they have another art director too internally in the studio.
Got it.
But again, that art director is giving me almost all the freedom. So what I do is just like, I prepare a kit for my three or four. I have a couple of guys working with me. So I
Mm-hmm.
just prepare them the brief, and I prepare them the kit, or I just tell them
Sick.
like, hey, you are gonna do three pieces. I do three, you do three, and then that means we have nine to play with it and stuff like that. So yeah, it's exactly the process I follow. And if
Mm.
I have time and the client lets me let me do it, I will just, the first day or the first 2 days, I will just dedicate the whole day just to create the all the small assets and all the textures and all the materials and everything. All the designs ready for the next day. Just have fun. Placing the cameras, playing with lighting, and all of that. But yeah, that's actually the process.
Mm.
Obviously, sometimes the client needs a completely different thing, and I cannot do it in that way,
Yeah.
and I just go on the client way. But normally, if I can, I just do this process. And
Mm.
for me, I doubt it changed. I had to learn someday Unreal, but for now, it's been 2 years I've been using this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think when you did the previous course, were you using Blender then or no?
I was learning Blender
There's a beginning,
at the
right? Yeah.
time, but obviously I couldn't do anything on the course related to Blender because I
Yeah.
was the one learning the software.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
but no, I was when did the other course. I will say when I moved, I know that because when I moved to Spain, it's when I was using Blender 100%
Mm.
on my process. Actually, on Obi-Wan Kenobi, on Transformers, all of that was still Octane and Cypress and Octane. And then I moved to Blender on the next and the next project. It was just like a challenge. It was just like, maybe this project is a little bit more boring, and the tasks are very video game tasks, very simple to do. And I know how to do them on Cypress perfectly on Octane, but maybe since I kind of really knows what the client wants, I know they give me time. Maybe it's a good opportunity instead to just practice Blender only with personal work. Why I'm not gonna just maybe put a little bit more hours in my day to day and just do this task completely in Blender or completely with the ZBrush Blender process
Mm.
instead to rendering it on Octane. So it's a good way, actually. I would say, if a task or a job you think like, okay, it's very me, like I know how to
Mm.
do it
Mm.
perfectly with my regular workflow. So just to make your day and don't be bored, just try to do that task with a different
Mm.
workflow, and that's make your day easier, and you're learning something new. And if you see it's not working, obviously the next day you go back to your regular workflow and you fix
Yeah.
all the shit you did.
I mean, I guess that's a beautiful thing about this space. Like, you can adopt things, chop and change, keep things that you want to keep, and move it out there as well. But one thing I always like about your courses is technically, or even literally, you can just use those individual steps that you put it on, and that's literally what a client needs.
Yeah.
Whether it's like ideation sketches, through to development sketches,
Yes.
or little work in progresses to the final thing, and even a beautiful little bonus where you can expand it more, whether
Hmm.
it's animatic or just
Yeah. Yeah,
like you
that's
did, like
more
with the
bonus. Normally
vehicle,
client
like
doesn't get
you
that.
started 3D printing that, I
Hmm.
think, I believe as well. Um, but yeah, just for let people know,
Yeah, it's
what
actually
can you
right
learn
there, the
in
lens square
it?
one.
What can you learn in environment concept art?
Well, you're gonna what you're gonna learn. It's we actually call it environment concept art because it's very focused on just to create for environments. But if you take this course and you have like actually with the Civers basics, and you just turn it a little bit. You can apply anything you're gonna learn in this course for characters
Yeah.
or for props or design in general, like even for more vehicle design, because
Mm-hmm.
actually on the Cibers Basics part of the course, so if you take the environment one, Cibers Basics come included, obviously. Big, one of, some of the challenges we are doing on this, because we have this challenge for the students, which I think they are very nice, and I actually have a lot of fun doing them.
Mm-hmm.
Because when Nick, saw me that idea and said just to do the homework, why I don't do a quick video, just doing a challenge, only using 3 tools of the software and all of that. I do a character on that one, and I do a vehicle on that one. So if you apply, obviously in the course it's more focused on the environment, but if you apply any of that knowledge for another thing, why, it's the way, actually the way I learn vehicles on Zebra is because I was learning how to do characters, and then I was just like, why I cannot do a
Mm-hmm.
vehicle using exactly the same technique?
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing is locked only for environments. It's especially done for environments. But if you take that knowledge and you apply it for something else, you know.
Mm-hmm. And one thing about the industry, like, it's a given now. Like we mentioned, Blender, that's a given. That's almost the go-to
Mm-hmm.
tool, if not the go-to tool, at
Yes.
least for concept art, amongst other things as well. Is 3D. 3D is
Mm-hmm.
something that's a given now. Like it's
Yeah.
as like making your own, which you teach in the course as well, to make your own brush pack,
Mm-hmm.
make your own kits, or use 3D as well. Um, why is it important to? And there's many amazing kits you can always buy as well. People have made companies have made beautiful kits. Individuals make beautiful kits.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important for artists to, whether they do it further on or not, to at least attempt to make their own kits?
I think it's very important because you learn how to design, and again, it's same stuff we talked about previously on the traditional stuff. It's actually the same answer. Like,
Mm,
if you buy the kits, you have them already. It's just like instant fun, like McDonald's. Obviously, in the industry, when you are working on a project, it's very useful to have kit bash, big, medium, small, and these kind of websites who are gonna give you the kits, Quixel, and all of that. It's gonna give you the assets, but in the process of learning or the process of your own way of work, I think it's very important to create your own kits or your own assets, because first of all, in the industry, 3D is something you need. I would say 100%. If you are
mm-hmm,
new, you need it, yes or yes, because the only not people I know, they only do completely 100% 2D. It's mainly characters or very old, not very old in terms of age, but very experienced
mm,
old style guys who they can do perspective and on drawings, and the client or the production designer already knows them and works with them,
mm-hmm,
because if not, the go is just 3D. Actually,
mm,
because one thing, AI cannot do 3D yet, so uh, that's good. And the other thing, it's the fact, like for set and for stuff like that, a 3D file is very important, because
yes.
it's going to help the director to visualize sizes, camera work, and all of that, because these days, back in the days, was a little bit more concept is this part, and then previous, and then storyboard,
Mm-hmm,
or storyboard first, and then now it's a little bit all of us together. Sometimes you have to send your 3D assets to client, actually on Kenobi. What I saw in some of the behind the scenes for the Dayu planet and Alderaan planet, even though they say, somebody say like, no, we designed all these buildings, and then I saw the breakdown and I was just like, this is my 3D file straight away. They are
yeah.
even using my textures, like it's
Sick.
just like they are using my textures and my 3D file, because Unreal 5 can handle a lot of
Yes.
polygons, and you don't need to have them all completely clean, because obviously when I'm in 3D, it's 3D for concept work. Like, the important thing, it looks good. It doesn't need to have like a good
Mm-hmm,
topology, like a video game asset. But I straight away saw it, so how useful they can be these days. Actually, for the LEDs, it's a new thing. The VAD. It's a new thing, and it's very useful for a client to have that 3D, because they just can put it the next day on set straight away. If they are kind of nice, obviously they are very low res or low poly, no, but if it's for the background, it's gonna be slightly blurry, um you don't need to have like a perfect and millimeter detailed asset. Just I actually will recommend, because they did a great job. Don't get me wrong with these guys, but
Mm,
the fact like people don't credit other people on our station or something like that, it kind of hurts.
mm,
Like it's just like, hey, it's not a problem if you mention like I got this from concept work or whatever. Just don't say like I'm designing the whole planet, because you
mm.
didn't. It was just like 15 guys behind you doing that. But then you see the work they did, it's completely remarkable and very
Mm.
nice. Very, very
Um,
good. Very, very good
speaking about
environment to work.
things, speaking about things that hurt, sometimes I guess when you do something technical like building assets, at least something
Hmm.
that's a perhaps more technical or painstaking, can feel painful. It doesn't feel like creatively free. One thing I really enjoy about the course, especially when it comes to the asset making aspect of the course,
Yeah.
is it feels like, well, it is just concept art. Like you're just
Yes.
exploring whilst you're building. It's not a case
Yeah.
of, and there is something like you mentioned before about doing traditional stuff. There is something rewarding about building something. But when it comes to 3D, sometimes, especially if you're more into being expressive with concept art and
Yes.
exploring things, you don't want to lose that aspect, and you definitely
Hmm.
don't with that. Is that something that you do intentionally,
In some way,
or is that
yes.
like the way you like to work?
Yes, the way I like to work, because it's I always put very important in my work is just to have like an original design. Again, having a kit made by your own is teaching you how to design and focus your brain in how to create something original or very inspired. But at the end, you are creating it. You're not copying it, or
Hmm.
or just copy pasting something from the internet into the concept painting. And it's something I do intentionally, and every day in some way I always thinking like that's why I do less personal work these days, because for me it's really hard. I mean, I will be able to do more personal work, yes, because I can just download assets from internet and
Hmm.
then just put a light in, render it, and show it. Yes, I can do that, but I will not feel good doing that. Like even I mean, if you do it, it's not a problem. Obviously, it's just
Hmm.
my way of work and my way of mindset just to keep my portfolio. It's just to do that by myself.
Hmm.
Like for example, you can see that Space Marine right there. I designed. It's a Space Marine from Warhammer 40K, but I designed the whole suit. I mean, obviously with the proportions or the basics of like reading as a space marine, but every plate, every bolt, all the helmet is all done by me,
Hmm.
because I wanted to do my version, because I think the games Workshop ones are a little bit janky to be like this big. For this is okay, but for this is not okay.
Hmm.
And I had to redesign all of it, so I just completely redesign everything. Just even the patterns and everything are completely new from me, so except the eagle, obviously, because the logo type is
Hmm.
the logo type. But that's something I do in my personal work, and I think is my best way to learn, and the best way actually for a client later on to hire you. Because for example, when I personally had to find some artists for the project we are working on, I hire people with, yes, good cinematic cameras, good cinematic lighting. But again, that's a little bit fast food these days. It's easy to
Hmm.
get that. It's
Hmm.
very easy to get that these days with a couple of tutorials. You just buy big, medium, small assets, which they are remarkable good. They are even better than some video game assets. And then you just place the camera and put fog on it.
Hmm.
Yes, you're gonna create a beautiful image. You're gonna show how good you can render, but you're not showing me how good you can design. If I'm
Hmm.
asking you to do three space marines on the top of a unicorn, on the top of a rainbow, I want a cool design. I just don't want something basic.
Hmm. And I guess that kind of answers my next question is, what would you like students to gain from this course and to really add to their skill set?
What I will say is, again, same as what happened in the previous course. It's just like I want to see original things, original designs, and this workflow actually helps a lot to create and to help you to create your own, like what is called these days world building. Because you're gonna be able to do a whole world all for you, and make all for you. Obviously, there's many students, and it's not a problem with this, because I saw this on the student homework. Many of these students, they start just making something very close of what I did, which is completely fine. because if you're learning, and sometimes if you're learning and you don't have the whole knowledge of design, even though I teach, I know you saw probably on lesson one, I do like a little bit of, notes of how, or tricks of how to design, just putting these objects
Mm.
and all of this game I did in some way, to help you to not have like a busy design or like a good readability and all of that. It's completely fine if you just literally copy and you do the whole course just copying it. Because actually, the way I normally learn when for example, I download a lens square, I just normally copy exactly the same what he did. I don't go on my own way all the time because I wanted to learn the tools, and
Mm-hmm.
then once I learn the tools, I will recommend to just to redo the course
Mm.
with your own design. That's if you. I mean, obviously, there's people who are gonna start from scratch and they're gonna take the tools and do their own, obviously. But if you don't feel you are doing very very nice, or you're not very happy with your own, just it's good if you get something closer to what I did.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big problem actually, because you're learning, and then as soon as you learn all of that, you can do whatever you want.
And I think what's also great as well is it covers that wide range. Like, yes, you got people who are completely new and they can pick up new things, but even the more senior ones who have their own way of doing things, maybe stubborn in terms of adjusting. I really like some of the technical aspects, like the way you make assets and the way you can bring them in and
Hmm.
obviously use them, but you do them in a very smart way where they're reusable, they're
Yes.
robust, especially the materials,
Yeah.
the way you do that. I've been doing things clearly the wrong way, because when I saw that, I was thinking, of course, that's a much smarter way, much
Well,
more
actually,
efficient, elegant way.
in the course
And
I think for the older buildings is one material for all of them, right?
exactly. But in a way where it's like you get exactly what you need to give yourself scope to get that variation,
Hmm.
add that believability, or whatever creative aspect you want to do. It always keeps it focused on the creative aspect and focus on design as opposed to
Yes.
getting weighed down on the technical aspect as well.
Yes.
Now, why ZBrush? Why ZBrush?
Because even though I would be a liar now, because yeah, I model stuff also on Blender now. Not when I did the course. The course I did it, months ago, and then I learned a little bit more of Blender just to model not everything on Blender, but because actually it was just a project I was working on, and again I was learning this because I already knew how to do it on ZBrush. I know how it's gonna look. I know how
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna end it up, but why I don't try to do with hard ops on Blender, for example. And I'm start getting it there. But every time I have a problem, I just go to ZBrush,
Mm-hmm.
because ZBrush feels like drawing. That's what I like of
Mm-hmm.
ZBrush. Like with the way I cut the things,
Yes.
it feels like when I'm doing any 3D printing and I have to do the environment, that I just take wood, I just take tools, and then I just cut them, sand them, and all of that. And ZBrush in some way feels more organic, even though
Mm-hmm.
you are doing hard surface, but feels organic the way of work, feels more like crafting rather than just points and extrude and bevel and extrude and uh, boolean and all of that. Even though on ZBrush we use it, but we use it for center and small points, because
Mm-hmm.
normally what you're doing is just creating everything like clay in some way. And that's why I like ZBrush, because it
Mm-hmm.
keeps me a little bit away of that only 3D vibes or only 3D feeling, which is something like many artists struggle. And actually, there's a famous thing I hear from Jama, Jama Chupabai. He didn't like poly modeling, and then he just discovered Blender and he discovers 3D code. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's the same thing, but I use ZBrush.
Mm. And yeah, you can definitely tell like the way you do it. There's like a playfulness with what you do. Like you make the asset, and it's literally the asset is being made. There's less. There almost isn't anything. Same with the the vehicle concept art course as well, where it's like technical this, or we got to make sure this is taken care of. It's
Hmm.
done in like a nice one smooth brushstroke, so to speak, where it's like nice and creative and fluid
Yeah.
almost. But it's like, okay, we made the asset, this is done, and then now let's send it to Blender. Um, Now we've had this question already. Since we've announced the course, so obviously some people are like,
Yeah.
can't I do this all in Blender? Some people are like, do I have to use ZBrush?
Yeah.
Is it possible to A, use something else, and B, still use the way you make assets in the ZBrush Basics course,
Hmm.
but also do it in a different tool?
Yes, absolutely. It is obviously any of the assets you can actually in Blender you can sculpt them and model. These days closer and closer. I still use ZBrush because even though the modeling and the sculpting in Blender is getting there, and I saw very nice results. But the way to get that results are so long in comparison than the quick thing you can do in ZBrush.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely, it's the same question that people had like in the previous course. Like, can I do the course on ZBrush and then render it on Blender? And I would say like yes, absolutely, or render it in Redshift or any other software. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
you can do it. I mean, I'm just showing my process. And if you know any way to do the like for example in this case we use the poly painting thing, which is something I discovered and that actually changed my mind just to keep everything more optimized and then just to forget about materials all the time because you know you can paint the models and if we are doing concept work you just can put the vertex node on Blender and then you have that colors already there. If you are able to do that on 3D code, just do it on 3D code. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
deforming tools and all of the when we create in the course, you can see we create one asset and then from one asset we modified it and we have another 5 assets. That tools normally they are in every software.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to use all Blender, just be free to do it. I mean, I'm just telling you what I like to use because for me it feels more organic just to jump it on ZBrush and do it
Mm-hmm.
first on ZBrush. But if you know another technique in another software, obviously you can do it. Same as the in the end of the video when we do the final composition for the slightly small cinematic we did. If you prefer to do it on Nuke or instead to After Effects, do it there. You know, it's not a
Mm-hmm.
problem. I just do it on After Effects and Premiere because it's the ones I know and it's the ones I pay. Actually, I don't pay Nuke, so and I have no idea how to use Nuke. But if you want to do it, or if you want to do all the compositing in Blender, which actually you can, just feel free to do it there. You know, I'm just doing what I feel is comfortable for
Mm-hmm.
me.
And I think, like, I guess it's a rule of thumb. I don't know if you have a different opinion, but I think most digital artists these days, they are always like kind of like doing their own thing anyway. They kind of know how to kind of like adapt
Hmm.
to their own kind of version. They just like adapt or they kind of know a bit of everything where they can like do it whichever way they want to do it. And I think, yeah, just for people who maybe like super beginners who think, must I do this way to get the teachings? I guess the
Hmm.
answer is no. You can do it any particular way because, like you mentioned, the theory and the fundamentals that you teach can be translated to anything.
Yes, you can translate it to anything, but I will recommend just well again. I will recommend even though you're not gonna use it later, just to do it because it
Mm,
maybe clicks in your mind something. You know,
exactly.
uh because maybe it just click in your mind like for example I was back in the days I was refusing. I remember in Ireland Timothy and Jama they were using Blender already and I was refusing to use it. Like I was just like this software is ugly because it was when actually was a little bit ugly the user interface and I was like this software is ugly and the render is way slow. Like cycles is like 10 times slower and Eevee is not getting that nice you know looking render like Octane. You know, like Octane is quicker, more realistic, and till this day actually I would say till this day I think Octane looks better than Blender. Like
Hmm.
I think I sometimes I do renders in Octane for specific things and I sometimes I'm like oh yeah this the lighting in Octane is just
Yeah,
fantastic, you know. But it's for me it's easier now for use all Blender. But yes, I just forget what I was talking about. But yeah, I like the fact that Timothy was using Blender and I was just refusing to use it. But once I used it for something in Lord of the Rings, actually, we were working on the Moria the Casa Doom mines, and the client wants to see them. And obviously, Octane was really bad to do interior with bouncing lights. It was taking so many time, so we decided just to do the bouncing light on Eevee. So basically, we just put like all the light was fake. It was not actually real
hmm
bounce. We was just like fuck, you know, we just like pointing to the walls and everything. But we did it in Eevee, and thanks to that, it clicks me like, oh, so I can use Eevee for this kind of scenes. Actually, it's better than Octane because Octane is gonna take me like 40 minutes to do a render, and Eevee it's
hmm
just like this, you know.
yeah, yeah,
If I fake it a little bit with the lights, so yeah, I will say just it's always good if you do it, you know,
yeah.
just even though you are not gonna use it later, maybe you will change your mind.
Hmm.
Not a
Now
problem.
there's
But that's mainly
like
for
yeah,
professionals.
I'm
Students
I'm sure
normally
you'd
they
always
absorb
agree.
everything.
Like even in the vehicle concept art course, like there's a lot of things I took away from that. I still
Hmm.
do it in my own particular way,
Of
but
course.
but I can never go back to where I was before because the things that I learned
Yeah.
definitely took me. It gave me progression.
Thank you.
So same with like the vehicle concept art course, the amount of diversity and the cool work that people have done, and not even just that, you can tell that it's empowered a lot of people to
Hmm.
really feel confident to work, to make their own
Yeah.
thing and develop careers as well, which is super powerful. They can never like we don't speak about that enough. I don't think where we just say like, yes, you learn a new skill, but some
Hmm.
people have actually like developed a whole career from this, which is something that you can't really pick off the shelf and buy almost.
Hmm.
And I can only say the same thing with this course. Like, I'm just can't wait to see the different things that people are going to come up with, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually, I saw some of the crazy homework from the Lens Squared. Like my favorite is when it's completely different of what I did.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you can see how they follow step by step the process, but the way they are designing is completely different, and that's what I love the most. And that's what
Hmm.
I can't wait to see what people does, during this course, mainly because it's. I would say this is better. It's more open. This course,
Yes.
the other one was focused on vehicles. This one is environment, but you can do a little bit of everything. So because you have these little challenges, because the challenges again, for example, on the challenges where you were mentioning, one of the challenges is just to design only using blocks and I decide to do a regular box and how you can from one box you can change it and do three or four. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
Hmm.
Um, but it was for me, even though it was just like, oh, you can see how simple like, and actually it times myself because I saw how long it took me
Yeah.
to design 10 assets, or three assets, for later on to use in my concept. So it's just like, yes, why if Paulo did a box, so why I'm gonna do a box which I saw is very simple and very easy to do.
Hmm.
But maybe you can do it and then you realize maybe you can be quicker than me or you can or how quick you can do it, just do it first and then you can do your own thing because this is a learning process and course is just for learning, not for another thing. It's just focus on learning because we are on learn squared, So,
And speaking of learning, I always got to commend you with this, like the way you break things down, the way you
hmm.
explain your process, and the way you make it digestible and easy to follow. Like that is not easy to do. So congratulations on
Thank you.
doing that very well because it's just like yeah, it just flows into the brain nice and easily and it sits there and you know exactly what you need to do. So
Thank you.
people who are considering the course or want to check it out, click on the links.
Yeah.
You can get it now. If you're checking this out on Patreon, the course should be still available on pre-order, which means it's half price. So you get
Yes.
the best possible price. And remember, if you get the full course, which is environment concept art, you get ZBrush Basics
Yes.
free. Although you can buy it separately if you just want to learn that as a
Hmm.
standalone
Yeah.
and you want to add that to your pipeline. Pablo, any final words to your students and any final words in general before we wrap up?
Well, I hope you enjoy. Again, I cannot wait to see what people does. I already have many messages. It's always a good time when it was like similar to last year, but since actually last time I did the course, I didn't. I have like 5,000 followers now. I have 28, and many of them is thanks to Lens Square, obviously, because that pushed me, a little bit on the social media. I'm
Mhm.
receiving a lot of messages of like, I already get it, I already get it, I already get it, and I'm surprised. Like I got that message from many people I work on because they are professionals. It's like I
Yes.
already pay for it. I hope it's good. And I'm like, why you're paying for it? You're already a professional. But you can see how for any student, you can see, and this is not a joke. Many of senior and art directors are getting it because they are like, I'm interested in what you are gonna do. Maybe
Mm,
they are only going to watch it like a movie, and I actually do that. Like if a friend of mine release a tutorial, I normally buy
same.
it and I watch it like like when I'm dinnering because maybe there's a little thing in that thing I don't know, and it's gonna be good for me in the future. So again, for all the students and all the early people in the industry who are gonna take it, I hope it's easier to follow, and I hope it's not you're not gonna struggle too much. If you do, just remember, just copy exactly what I do and then do your own. It's the best recommendation I can do. Similar to when you're learning traditional art, what you do is just copy reality, and then you can invent new stuff. And I hope everybody enjoys. If you're a professional and you're get some of this, I will be it fills me if you're an art director or anything just doing this course. And anyway, any student with crazy ideas is always good to see, because they are like normally taking everything to the next step and doing things I cannot even imagine how to do them. So
Hmm.
it's very cool, and I can't wait to see the results, and I can't wait to see people doing animation. In the last part of the course, there's a little bit of animation, or a little bit of matte painting, moving stuff, and I can't wait if people does that. I mean, that's like a little extra. Actually, we will just mention it. Like, course is just main focus on the images, and then as an extra, we have the little animation clip. And I can't wait to see people doing that. Like let's see.
Awesome. Everybody, grab the course. The links are in the episode description, wherever you're listening to it. Thanks again, Pablo. Always a pleasure chatting with you.
Aaron.
And congratulations on the course.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody.
Always incredible to chat with Pablo, and even more incredible to learn from him. Sign up for his 3 Learn Squared courses today by hitting the links attached. And if you're watching this as soon as this episode airs, then there are some juicy discounts waiting for you. Also, be sure to hit Pablo's links to see what he's up to and to give him a follow. And if you're enjoying the podcast, remember to please like, share, and subscribe. I've been your host, Aaron Danda. Till next time.